You're watching Truth Cherry. Like, comment, subscribe. The Twitter Files. Part 8. How Twitter quietly aided the Pentagon's covert online PSYOP campaign. Despite promises to shut down covert state-run propaganda networks, Twitter docs show that the social media giant directly assisted the U.S. military's influence operations. Twitter has claimed for years that they make concerted efforts to detect and thwart Gov-backed platform manipulation. Here is Twitter testifying to Congress about its pledge to rapidly identify and shut down all state-backed covert information operations and deceptive propaganda. It reads, "Combating attempts to interfere in conversations on Twitter remains top priority for the company, and we continue to invest heavily in our detection, disruption, and transparency efforts related to state-backed information operations. Our goal is to remove bad faith and to advance public understanding of these critical topics." Twitter defines state-backed information operations as coordinated platform manipulation efforts that can be attributed with a high degree of confidence to state-affiliated actors. State-backed information operations are typically associated with misleading, deceptive, and spammy behavior. These behaviors differentiate coordinated manipulative behavior from legitimate speech on behalf of individuals and political parties. Whenever we identify inauthentic activity on Twitter that meets our definition of an information operation, and which we are able to confidently attribute to actors associated with the government, we share comprehensive data about this activity. But behind the scenes, Twitter gave approval and special protection to the U.S. military's online psychological influence ops. Despite knowledge that Pentagon propaganda accounts used covert identities, Twitter did not suspend many for around 2 years or more. Some remain active. In 2017, a U.S. Central Command, also known as CENTCOM, official sent Twitter a list of 52 Arab language accounts that he stated we used to amplify certain messages. The official asked for priority service for 6 accounts, verification for 1, and whitelist abilities for the others. In this email from CENTCOM, subject non-DoD source. He writes, "Thanks, sure is touch to do web ops when you can't tweet. I've attached a list. The first 6 on the list are our priority accounts. Ideally, we could have them verified, blue check mark, and whitelisted, if there is such a thing. One of them, at Yemen Current, is currently not indexing. At Justice_AR, currently has a request in for verification but haven't heard anything. The rest are accounts we use to amplify certain messages. Ideally, they could be whitelisted as well. Again, if it's too big an ask, the first 6 are priority. If you need any sort of paperwork or verification from our office or SOCOM, please just let me know. Also, our SOCOM guys mentioned that they'd love to be able to come and meet up for a face-to-face to talk, if you think the right Twitter folks would be up for it." The same day CENTCOM sent the list, Twitter officials used a tool to grant a special whitelist tag that essentially provides verification status to the accounts without the blue check, meaning they are exempt from spam and abuse flags, more visible, likely to trend on hashtags. The CENTCOM accounts on the list tweeted frequently about U.S. military priorities in the Middle East, including promoting anti-Iran messages, promotion of Saudi Arabia U.S.-backed war in Yemen, and "accurate" U.S. drone strokes that claimed to only hit terrorists. CENTCOM then shifted strategies and deleted disclosures of ties to the Twitter accounts. The bios of the accounts changed to seemingly organic profiles. One bio read, "Euphrates Pulse." Another used an apparent deepfake profile pic and claimed to be a source of Iraqi opinion. One Twitter official who spoke to me said he feels deceived by the covert shift. Still, many emails from throughout 2020 show that high-level Twitter executives were well aware of DoD's vast network of fake accounts and covert propaganda and did not suspend the accounts. For example, Twitter lawyer Jim Baker mused in a July 2020 email about an upcoming DoD meeting that the Pentagon used "poor tradecraft" in setting up its network and were seeking strategies for not exposing the accounts that are linked to each other or to DoD or the USG. Stacia Cardille, another Twitter attorney, replied that the Pentagon wanted a SCIF and many want to retroactively classify its social media activities, quote, to obfuscate their activity in this space, and that this may represent an overclassification to avoid embarrassment, end quote. In this email from Stacia Cardille to Angela Scherer and Jim Baker, Stacia writes, Jim, Angela, and I discussed attendance at this classified briefing. I heard from Facebook that they are securing SIFs in D.C. and San Francisco for a meeting, possibly on Friday. I have some significant concerns that the motivations for classifications are slightly different than the ones you outlined in the email below. I think it is possible DoD is using retroactive classification to obfuscate their activity in this space, and that this may represent an overclassification to avoid embarrassment. Angela and I think you would be more effective in this meeting than me, as the officials will view you more seriously. Thoughts on this? In several other 2020 emails, high-level Twitter executives and lawyers discussed the covert network and even recirculated the 2017 list from CENTCOM and shared another list of 157 undisclosed Pentagon accounts, again mostly focused on Middle East military issues. In a May 2020 email, Twitter's Lisa Roman emailed the DoD with two lists. One list was accounts, quote, previously provided to us, unquote, and another list Twitter detected. The accounts tweeted in Russian and Arabic on U.S. military issues in Syria, ISIS, and many also did not disclose Pentagon ties. In that email, Lisa Roman writes, Bill, thank you again for your time yesterday. As discussed, attached is a spreadsheet with the accounts we described on our call. The first tab lists those accounts previously provided to us, and the second, associated accounts that Twitter has discovered. Please note that the second tab is not intended to be an exhaustive, and if DoD is aware of additional associated accounts which may violate our rules, those should be included in the scope of our request. I would be grateful if you would confirm receipt and that you are able to access this spreadsheet without issue. Please let me know if you have any questions regarding this information. Best, Lisa. Many of these secretive U.S. military propaganda accounts, despite detection by Twitter as late as 2020, but potentially earlier, continued tweeting though this year, some not suspended until May 2022 or later, according to records I reviewed. In August 2022, a Stanford Internet Observatory report exposed a U.S. military covert propaganda network on Facebook, Telegram, Twitter, and other apps using fake news portals and deep fake images and memes against U.S. foreign adversaries. The U.S. propaganda network relentlessly pushed narratives against Russia, China, and other foreign countries. They accused Iran of threatening Iraq's water security and flooding the country with crystal meth, and of harvesting organs of Afghan refugees. The Stanford report did not identify all of the accounts in the network, but one they did name was the exact same Twitter account CENTCOM asked for whitelist privileges in its 2017 email. I verified via Twitter's internal tools. The account used an AI-created deepfake image. Here is a screenshot of that AI-generated deepfake image. And here are two screenshots of the same profile at different times. Left is an archived version of the Discover Twitter account with an Arabic language bio claiming an affiliation with CENTCOM. And on the right is the same account shortly before it was suspended by Twitter with the deepfake profile picture. In subsequent reporting, Twitter was cast as an unbiased hero for removing, quote, a network of fake user accounts promoting pro-Western policy positions, unquote. Media covering the story described Twitter as evenly applying its policies and proactive in suspending the DoD network. The reality is much more murky. Twitter actively assisted CENTCOM's network going back to 2017, and as late as 2020, they knew these accounts were covert and designed to deceive, to manipulate the discourse, a violation of Twitter's policies and promises. They waited years to suspend. Twitter's comms team was closely in touch with reporters, working to minimize Twitter's role. When the Washington Post reported on the scandal, Twitter officials congratulated each other because the story didn't mention any Twitter employees and focused largely on the Pentagon. In this email, an employee from Twitter writes, "Hi there, I hope you're well. We wanted to give you a heads up that the Washington Post will be publishing a piece, most likely this weekend, that sheds more light on the U.S. government aspects of recent Graphica-Stanford report about tech companies removing U.S.-based influence campaigns. It's a story that mostly focused on DoD and Facebook. However, there will be a couple lines that reference us alongside Facebook, and that we reached out to them for a meeting. We don't think they'll tie it to anything Mudge-related or name any Twitter employees. We decline to comment. I suspect this piece will get more attention in Washington with the DoD angle. We'll keep you posted. Thanks, Katie. Another Twitter employee responds with, thank you. Jim Baker responds with, got it. Thanks. Another Twitter employee writes, thank you for the flag, Katie. In this email, Rebecca Hahn at Twitter replying Katie writes, thanks for doing all that you could to manage this one. It didn't seem to get too much traction beyond Verge, CNN, and Walpo editors promoting. The email she was replying to is as follows. Katie writes, hi folks, here's the piece, which I think turned out as expected. Formatted in a doc here. Thanks. And Katie attaches a link of the original article from the Washington Post, titled Pentagon Opens Sweeping Review of Clandestine Psychological Operations. Subtitled as Complaints about the U.S. military's influence operations using Facebook and Twitter have raised concern in the White House and federal agencies. The conduct with the U.S. military's covert network stands in stark contrast with how Twitter has boasted about rapidly identifying and taking down covert accounts tied to state-backed influence operations, including Thailand, Russia, Venezuela, and others since 2016. Li Fong states, here's my reported piece with more detail. I was given access to Twitter for a few days. I signed and agreed to nothing. Twitter had no input into anything I did or wrote. The searches were carried out by a Twitter attorney, so what I saw could be limited. Stay tuned for a message on how to find a narrated version of the article from The Intercept listed in this screenshot. You have been watching Truth Cherry. The information shared in this video is publicly available on Twitter as reported by reporter Li Fong of The Intercept. Mr. Fang's report can be found on his Twitter feed at LH To hear the narration of Mr. Fong's Intercept article on this subject, it's one of the recommended videos on this screen, or find it at Truth Cherry on YouTube. Thank you. Please subscribe.